Hey warriors! Right now, someone is watching your every move, analyzing your choices, waiting for you to stumble. But it's not who you think it is. It's you. You've become your own worst enemy, constantly performing for an audience that doesn't even exist, seeking approval from people who forgot your name 5 minutes after meeting you. Here's what nobody tells you about modern life. We've turned our existence into a 24/7 performance where the applause never comes, but we keep dancing anyway. We post, we speak, we react. We explain ourselves to strangers on the internet who wouldn't cross the street to help us. And in this endless noise, we've lost the one thing that actually matters, ourselves. The ancient Stoics had a term for this, prosos, which means attention to the present moment and care of the self. But here's the twist. They practiced it in complete silence. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, could have commanded the attention of millions. Instead, he chose to write his deepest thoughts in a private journal, never intended for publication. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, regularly practiced voluntary poverty and silence. Epictetus, who went from slave to philosophy teacher, built his entire philosophy around one principle. Control what you can control, ignore everything else. These weren't hermits hiding from society. These were people at the peak of influence who understood something we've forgotten. Your power multiplies in silence. Today, I'm revealing 7 ancient rules that will teach you to become so focused on your own growth that other people's opinions become background noise. This isn't about becoming antisocial. It's about becoming unshakable. When you master these principles, you won't just change how others see you. You'll become someone even you didn't know you could be. But here's the catch. Most people will watch this video, nod along, maybe even take notes, and then go right back to seeking validation on social media. The difference between them and you are simple. Are you ready to actually implement what you learned today? If yes, prove it right now. Hit that like button, not for me, but as a commitment to yourself that you're serious about this transformation. And if you feel this message in your core, if you're tired of living for everyone except yourself, write this in the comments. I choose silence over noise. These 7 rules follow a specific sequence. Miss one, and the others won't work. Skip ahead, and you'll miss the foundation. Each rule builds on the previous one, creating an unbreakable chain of self-mastery that the Stoics called the discipline of desire. Number 1. Starve the noise. Every single morning, within minutes of opening your eyes, you make a choice that will determine whether you own your day or your day owns you. But here's the thing, you probably don't even realize you're making this choice. You reach for your phone, you check the notifications, you absorb someone else's problems, someone else's highlight reel, someone else's emergency, that somehow becomes your mental burden. And just like that, before you've even had your first cup of coffee, you've fed the monster. What is this monster? It's the endless suffocating noise of other people's opinions, judgments, expectations, and emotional chaos. It lives on your attention, grows stronger with your reactions, and becomes more demanding the more you feed it. And right now, it's probably running your life. You see someone's success story and suddenly question your own progress. You hear one criticism and spend 3 hours mentally defending yourself to someone who forgot about you 5 minutes later. You absorb news headlines like it's your personal responsibility to carry the world's anxiety. But here's what Epictetus understood 2,000 years ago that we've completely forgotten. Wealth consists in not having great possessions, but in having few wants. This former slave, who became one of history's greatest philosophers, wasn't just talking about money. He was talking about mental wealth, about being selective with what gets access to your mind. The Stoics understood that your thoughts create your reality, so they guarded their thoughts like their most precious possession. Here's your action plan to starve the noise starting today. Sacred morning hour. The first 60 minutes after you wake up belong to you and you alone. No phone, no news, no other people's energy. Just your thoughts, your intentions, your peace. This isn't luxury, it's necessity. Opinion fasting. When someone offers unsolicited advice about your life, practice what I call the water through a screen technique. Let it pass right through you. Smile, nod, and let it go. You're not required to absorb every opinion thrown your way. Defend nothing to no one. Stop explaining your choices to people who don't fund your life or share your bed. Your decisions are yours to make and yours to live with. The moment you stop defending your life to others is the moment you start living it. When you starve the noise, something magical happens. You start hearing your own voice again. You remember what you actually want versus what everyone thinks you should want. Your own thoughts become more interesting than anyone else's drama. You stop being an emotional ping-pong ball bouncing between other people's moods. You become unshakable, not because you're hard, but because you're centered in your own truth. Right now, identify one source of noise in your life. That news app sending constant notifications. That person who always has something negative to say about your choices. That social media account that makes you feel inadequate. Cut it off today. Starve it of your attention. Notice how much mental space that creates for what actually matters. Your growth, your peace, your authentic life. Number 2, move like nobody's watching. Right now, there's an invisible audience in your head. They're sitting in judgment of every decision you make, every risk you consider, every authentic impulse you have. And here's the shocking truth. Most of these judges don't even exist. You know that moment when you're about to do something bold, start that project, change your style, pursue that dream, and you suddenly freeze. Not from lack of ability, but from the weight of imaginary eyes watching you, waiting for you to stumble. Here's what will set you free. Those people you think are constantly evaluating your choices. They're too busy managing their own insecurities to spend much time thinking about yours. You've been living your life like you're the star of everyone else's movie, but the truth is, you're barely a background character in most people's daily thoughts. We've become prisoners of performances nobody asked us to give. Seneca, who advised emperors and owned vast wealth, understood this deeply. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. But here's what he knew that we've forgotten. Most people never experience that new beginning because they're too terrified to end the exhausting performance they've been putting on for everyone else. The Stoics called this authentic action, making decisions from your true nature, not from fear of judgment. But here's the deeper truth that will shock you. The person watching you most critically isn't other people, it's you. You've become your own harshest critic, your own biggest obstacle, your own prison guard. You've internalized so many voices, so many expectations, so many shoulds that you can't distinguish your authentic desires from borrowed fears anymore. Here's how you break free starting today. Reality check practice. When that voice says, "What will people think?" Ask yourself, which specific people? And why does their opinion matter more than my authentic expression? Most of the time you'll realize you can't even name these mysterious judges. The authentic action test. Before making any decision, ask, am I doing this from my center, or am I doing this to manage someone else's reaction to my life? If it's the latter, course correct immediately. Start small, build courage. Take that class you've been considering for months. Wear that outfit that makes you feel confident even if it's not your usual style. Speak up in meetings instead of staying silent. Each authentic action builds your courage muscle for bigger moves. Here's the beautiful paradox. When you move like nobody's watching, people actually start paying attention, but for the right reasons. Authenticity is magnetic. When people see someone living from their center, making decisions without constantly checking for approval, it gives them permission to do the same. You become not just free, but a source of freedom for others. Yes, some people might have commentary about your authentic choices. Perfect. Their discomfort with your authenticity is their issue to work through, not your problem to solve. You are not responsible for managing other people's reactions to your life. The most tragic thing would be reaching the end and realizing you spent your entire existence performing for an audience that wasn't even paying attention. If you're ready to stop living for invisible judges and start living from your authentic center, drop this in the comments. I live my life from my authentic center. This isn't just a comment. It's your declaration of independence from the prison of other people's expectations. Number 3, keep your energy expensive. Here's a truth that will change how you see your life. Your energy is currency, and right now, you're probably giving it away for free to people who would never invest the same in you. Every morning, you wake up with a finite amount of mental, emotional, and physical energy. Imagine having $100 in your pocket. The critical question is, how are you spending it? Are you investing in people and activities that give you a return, or are you letting it drain away on things that leave you feeling empty and depleted? Take a mental inventory right now. How much of your precious energy goes to worrying about problems you can't solve? People who take constantly but never give back? Scrolling through content that makes you feel inadequate, conversations that go nowhere and commitments you don't care about, drama that isn't even yours to carry. If this feels uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is your inner wisdom telling you something needs to change. Marcus Aurelius, who could have scattered his attention across an entire empire, wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Not because the past and future don't matter, but because spreading your energy across time, space, and other people's problems dilutes your power in the present moment. The Stoics understood that energy management is life management. When you treat your energy as finite and precious, every decision becomes intentional. When you keep your energy expensive, you're not being selfish, you're being strategic. You're recognizing that to show up fully for the people and things that truly matter, you must stop showing up halfway for everything else. This starts with the clean no, not the apologetic, over-explained no that most people give, but the clear, unjustified boundary. No, I can't take on that project right now. No, I won't be able to make it to that event. No, I don't want to discuss that topic. Period. No explanation needed. Here's where most people get this wrong. They think keeping energy expensive means being cold or distant. It's the opposite. When you're selective about where you spend your energy, you can be fully present for what you choose. Instead of being half engaged in 10 conversations, you're completely engaged in 2 meaningful ones. Think about the people who always seem calm and genuinely interested when you talk to them. They're not the people who say yes to everything. They're the people who have learned to invest their energy wisely. Here's your energy investment strategy, the value filter. Before committing your energy, ask, will this add genuine value to my life or the lives of people I care about? If the answer isn't a clear yes, it's a no. The motivation check. Am I doing this from fear, guilt, or obligation, or from genuine interest and alignment with my values? The opportunity cost. Question, is this the best use of my energy right now, or am I just filling time? When you keep your energy expensive, something powerful happens. People start treating it with more respect. When you're not always available, your availability becomes valuable. When you don't engage with every piece of drama, your opinion becomes more meaningful. When you choose your battles carefully, your support becomes more impactful. Your friends and family get the best version of you because you haven't given away all your best energy to energy vampires and digital distractions. The world will try to convince you that being generous means giving your energy to anyone who asks. But true generosity requires wisdom. You can't serve from an empty cup. When you treat your energy as precious, you ensure you always have enough to give meaningfully when it truly matters. Right now, identify one area where you've been giving your energy away cheaply. That toxic group chat. That person who calls to complain but never takes advice. That habit of doom scrolling when you're already down. Cut it off today. Redirect that energy towards something that actually serves your growth. If you're ready to start treating your energy like the precious resource it is, drop this in the comments. My energy is precious, and I invest it wisely. This is your commitment to becoming the CEO of your own energy portfolio. Number 4, kill the echo chamber. Right now, you're living in a bubble, and I don't mean that as an insult. We all are. The terrifying part is that most people don't realize their bubble exists until it's too late. Until they've made life-changing decisions based on incomplete information, until they've missed transformational opportunities because they only listened to voices that sounded exactly like their own. Your echo chamber runs deeper than politics or social opinions. It's the friends who always validate your complaints without challenging you to grow. It's the algorithm feeding you content designed to confirm what you already believe. It's the routine so comfortable that you've stopped questioning whether you're actually growing or just staying the same in increasingly sophisticated ways. Here's something that will blow your mind. Socrates, considered the wisest man in Athens, built his entire philosophy around one radical idea. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. While everyone else was certain they had all the answers, he was the only one brave enough to admit he might be wrong. That intellectual humility made him the wisest person in the room. Your echo chamber does the opposite. It makes you feel wise while keeping you ignorant. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If everyone in your circle agrees with everything you say, one of two things is happening. Either you're surrounded by people who don't feel safe being honest with you, or you've unconsciously selected people who will never challenge you to be better than you are right now. Comfort is the enemy of growth. When everyone around you thinks the same way, acts the same way, wants the same things, you stop evolving. You become a more sophisticated version of who you already were, instead of discovering who you could become. Killing the echo chamber doesn't mean seeking conflict or surrounding yourself with people who tear you down. It means intentionally exposing yourself to perspectives that make you think, not just feel validated. But here's where most people mess this up. They think diverse perspectives means arguing with strangers on the internet. That's not wisdom seeking, that's entertainment. Real growth comes from engaging with ideas in good faith, from people who can teach you something you didn't know you needed to learn. Examine your mental diet right now. What books are you reading? What podcasts are you consuming? What conversations are you having? What advice are you taking? If they're all confirming what you already believe, you're not learning, you're just reinforcing. And reinforcement without growth is sophisticated stagnation. Are you getting guidance from people who have achieved what you want to achieve, or from people stuck in the same places you're trying to leave? Are you learning from people who have solved the problems you're facing, or from people facing the same problems without solutions? The most successful people didn't get there by surrounding themselves with people who thought exactly like they did. They sought out mentors who challenged them, read books that stretched their thinking, and put themselves in rooms where they were the least experienced person. This also means silencing the familiar voices in your head that always say the same limiting things. You can't do that because you've never done it before. You should play it safe because that's what you've always done. You're not ready because you don't feel confident yet. Replace those stale scripts with fresh questions. What would someone who has what I want do in this situation? What would I attempt if I knew I couldn't fail? What opportunities am I missing because I'm looking through the same old lens? When you kill the echo chamber, you discover something powerful. You're more resilient than you thought. Your ideas can withstand scrutiny. Your decisions can handle being questioned. And when they can't, you learn to make better ones. The world needs people who think independently, who can see problems from multiple angles, who can bridge different perspectives instead of just defending one. But you can't become that person while living in a bubble that only reflects your own face back at you. Right now, identify one source of intellectual comfort you need to challenge. Maybe it's adding a book by someone who sees the world differently than you do. Maybe it's having a genuine conversation with someone from a different background. Maybe it's questioning one assumption you've never examined. Number 5. Watch, don't react. Picture this scene. Someone says something that bothers you. Within seconds you're responding. Your fingers are moving before your brain has processed what happened. Later, sometimes minutes, sometimes hours, you realize your reaction made everything worse. Sound familiar? We've become addicted to reacting. We react to news, social media posts, other people's moods, traffic, weather, things that happened years ago that we can't change. We've turned our lives into one exhausting reaction to everything except our own chosen path. But here's what the Stoics understood that we've forgotten. Between every stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space lies your power to choose. And that choice, not the thing that happened to you, determines the quality of your life. Epictetus, who knew suffering intimately, taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Easy to read. Much harder when someone cuts you off in traffic, when your boss sends that passive-aggressive email, when your friend cancels plan last minute. But this is where your real strength is built. Not in the big dramatic moments, but in the small daily choices where you choose observation over reaction. Watching instead of reacting doesn't mean being passive. It means being intentional. It means creating space between what happens and what you do about it. It means recognizing that your immediate emotional response is information, not instruction. Think about your last strong reaction to someone's words. Your first instinct was probably to defend, correct, or make them understand your perspective. But what if you had watched instead? What if you had observed your emotional response with curiosity rather than immediately acting on it? Here's what you would have discovered. The intensity of your reaction probably had more to do with what was already happening inside you than with what they actually said. Maybe you were already stressed, already insecure about that topic, already frustrated from something else. Their comment was just the match that lit a fire already prepared to burn. When you watch instead of react, you start seeing patterns. You always get defensive when people comment on your choices. You get angry when feeling misunderstood, but that anger never helps you feel more understood. Your reactions often create exactly the situations you're trying to avoid. But here's the beautiful thing about watching. It gives you options. When you're reacting, you have one choice, whatever your emotions demand in that moment. When you're watching, you can ask better questions. What outcome do I actually want here? Will this response move me closer to that outcome or further away? Is this worth my precious energy? Response comes from your wisdom. Reaction comes from your wounds. Response considers the bigger picture. Reaction only sees the moment. Response asks, what's most helpful here? Reaction asks, How can I make this stop hurting right now? This looks like pausing before sending that text, taking 3 conscious breaths before responding to criticism, asking, is this true and does it matter? Before letting someone else's mood determine your day. Watching yourself with the same curiosity you'd watch a fascinating documentary. When you notice you're getting triggered, instead of judging yourself, get curious. Interesting, I'm having a strong reaction to this. What's that about? This self-observation puts you back in the driver's seat of your emotional experience. The people who seem unshakable aren't those who never experience strong emotions. They're the people who have learned to watch their emotions without being controlled by them. They feel the anger, frustration and hurt, but don't let those feelings make their decisions. When you master this, something magical happens. Other people's chaos stops becoming your chaos. Their urgency doesn't become your emergency. Their bad day doesn't ruin your good mood. You become like a mountain, aware of the weather, but unmoved by every storm. Starting right now, the next time you feel that familiar surge of reaction, whether annoyance, anger, or even excitement, pause. Watch it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Observe your thoughts without immediately acting on them. Then, from that space of awareness, choose your response. Number 6. Turn your back on clout. Let me tell you about the most dangerous addiction of our time. It's not something you inject or inhale. It's something you refresh, scroll through, and measure in likes, shares, and comments. It's clout, and it's destroying more dreams than any substance ever could. Right now, there are people spending more time crafting the perfect post about their goals than actually working toward them. Entrepreneurs who know more about building their personal brand than building their business. Artists creating content about their art instead of creating actual art. The saddest part? They don't even realize they've swapped the real thing for the performance of the thing. Clout is seductive because it gives you the feeling of accomplishment without requiring actual accomplishment. You post about your morning routine and get validation that you're disciplined. You share a motivational quote and feel wise. You document your gym session and feel fit. But feeling like you're doing something and actually doing something are two completely different universes. The Roman Stoic Seneca warned about this thousands of years ago. It is a shameful thing to be weary of inquiry when what we search for is excellent. When you're more focused on appearing excellent than becoming excellent, you've lost the plot entirely. Here's the brutal truth. Clout is a rigged game. The platforms decide what gets seen. The algorithms decide what gets rewarded. The crowd decides what gets celebrated. You're putting your sense of accomplishment in the hands of systems and people who don't know your goals, your values, or your definition of success. When you chase clout, you start making decisions based on what will look good rather than what will be good. You choose workouts that look impressive in photos rather than ones that serve your fitness goals. You take on projects that sound good in your bio rather than ones that develop real skills. You share struggles that make you look relatable rather than working through struggles that would actually change your life. We've been conditioned to believe that if something isn't documented, it didn't happen. But here's the liberating truth. Those undocumented moments are often more valuable than the documented ones. The book you read without posting about it still changed your mind. The breakthrough you didn't share still transformed you. The growth that happened in silence still counts. Turning your back on clout means reclaiming your own scoreboard. It means measuring success by how you feel when your head hits the pillow, not by how many people liked your post that day. It means building skills that matter to you, relationships that fulfill you, and experiences that change you, regardless of whether anyone else knows about them. This doesn't mean you can never share your life or work. It means you share from genuine connection rather than desperate validation. The work comes first and the sharing is secondary. You're building something real and occasionally letting people see it, rather than building a facade and desperately trying to make it look real. Some of the most successful people you've never heard of turned their back on clout early. They spent their time building instead of broadcasting, learning instead of lecturing, creating instead of curating their image. They made mistakes in private, celebrated wins in private, and showed up in public only when they had something genuinely valuable to offer. When you turn your back on clout, you discover something incredible. You're more interesting when you're not trying to be interesting. You're more successful when you're not performing success. You're more confident when you're not seeking confidence from others. The energy you used to spend managing your image can be redirected toward actually becoming the person you've been pretending to be. Right now, identify one area where you've been chasing clout instead of substance. Your fitness journey, your business, your relationships, your learning. Ask yourself, what would I do differently if no one was watching? What goals would I pursue if I couldn't post about them? What changes would I make if I had to measure progress purely by my own standards? Do that. Build in private. Grow in silence. Let your results speak louder than your posts ever could. Number 7. Protect your comeback story. Here's something nobody talks about. Right now, while you're focused on other people's opinions, distracted by noise and chasing external validation, life is preparing you. Here's something nobody talks about. Right now, while you're focused on other people's opinions, distracted by noise, and chasing external validation, life is preparing you for something bigger. The setbacks you're facing, the challenges you're navigating, the quiet moments when nobody's watching, they're all chapters in your comeback story. But here's the catch. You can't write a comeback story if you're constantly giving away the plot. You can't build something extraordinary if everyone knows exactly how you're building it. And you definitely can't surprise the world with your transformation if you're documenting every step of the process. Your comeback story isn't just about recovering from failure. It's about the version of yourself you're becoming when no one is paying attention. It's about the skills you're developing in private, the character you're building in silence, the dreams you're nurturing away from the noise of other people's expectations. Marcus Aurelius, who wrote some of history's most powerful insights in his private journal, never intended for his thoughts to be read by others. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." He understood that the most important work happens away from the audience, in the quiet moments when you're accountable only to yourself. Right now, you have an opportunity that most people waste. The chance to completely reinvent yourself while the world isn't watching. While everyone else is busy performing their lives online, you can be actually building a life worth living. While they're chasing the appearance of growth, you can be experiencing actual growth. Protecting your comeback story means protecting the space where your real transformation happens. It means not sharing every insight you have, not documenting every step of your journey, not seeking validation for every change you make. It means being comfortable with the gap between who you're becoming and who people think you are. This is sacred work. The late nights when you're learning new skills, the early mornings when you're building discipline, the moments when you choose growth over comfort. These aren't content for social media, they're the foundation of your future self. But protecting your comeback story isn't just about privacy, it's about energy conservation. Every time you share your goals, your brain gets a hit of satisfaction as if you've already achieved them. Every time you explain your process, you lose motivation to continue the process. Every time you seek validation for your progress, you become dependent on external approval instead of internal drive. Think about the most impressive transformations you've witnessed. The person who quietly lost 50 pounds, the friend who learned a new language, the colleague who built a side business into their main income. I bet they didn't document every step. I bet they worked in relative silence and then showed up transformed. That's the power of protecting your comeback story. This doesn't mean becoming secretive or dishonest. It means becoming selective. You share your journey with people invested in your growth, not with people just consuming your content. You discuss goals with mentors who can help you achieve them, not with everyone who will listen. Your comeback story is being written right now, in this moment, with the choice you make after finishing this video. Will you continue to live for the audience, or will you start building for the future? Will you keep performing your life, or will you start actually living it? The most powerful comebacks happen when people least expect them. When you've been quiet, when you've been working, when you've been building something in the background while everyone else thought you were standing still. That's when you reveal not just what you've accomplished, but who you've become. Your comeback story isn't about proving anything to anyone else. It's about proving something to yourself, that you can commit to growth even when no one is cheering, that you can stay focused on your path even when it's not glamorous, that you can become the person you've always known you could be. The world is noisy. Your comeback story should be quiet until it's ready to roar. If you're ready to stop giving away your story and start writing it in the silence of your own dedication, drop this in the comments. I am writing my comeback story in silence. This is your commitment to building something real while the world is distracted by everything fake. So here we are at the end of these 7 rules, but really at the beginning of something much more important, your decision about how you want to live the rest of your life. We've explored starving the noise, moving like nobody's watching, keeping your energy expensive, killing your echo chamber, watching without reacting, turning your back on clout, and protecting your comeback story. But all of these rules point to one fundamental truth. The most powerful thing you can do in this noisy, chaotic, attention-seeking world is to turn inward and focus on becoming who you're meant to be. When you master these 7 rules, you don't just change how you interact with the world, you change how the world interacts with you. People start respecting your boundaries because you respect them. They start valuing your time because you value it. They start seeing you as centered and grounded because that's exactly what you become. But most importantly, you start respecting yourself. You stop looking for external validation because you've developed internal validation. You stop needing the world's permission because you've learned to give yourself permission. You stop waiting for someone else to believe in your dreams because you've become your own biggest supporter. This journey isn't easy, and it's not quick. In a world that promises instant everything, choosing the slow path of internal growth can feel frustrating. But that's exactly why it's so powerful. While everyone else is chasing the next quick fix, the next viral moment, the next external high, you're building something that can't be taken away from you, unshakable inner strength. Start today. Pick one rule that resonated with you most and begin implementing it immediately. Remember, you don't need to wait for Monday or next month or until you feel ready. You just need to start. If this video helped you see something differently about yourself or your life, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, drop a comment letting me know which rule hit you the most, and subscribe to the channel. We're building something special here, a community of people who choose growth over noise, substance over show, and inner peace over external chaos. The world needs more people who focus on themselves, not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. Because when you're centered, grounded, and clear about who you are and where you're going, you don't just improve your own life. You become a source of calm and strength for everyone around you. Your journey toward unshakable inner strength starts now. This isn't just the end of a video, it's the beginning of your transformation.